running on a Friday. People are already rolling in for the Final Four tonight. Saw a couple Caitlin Clark jerseys walking into the sportsbook here in Las Vegas. That is Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. The Final Four for the men's tomorrow. Women's Final Four tonight. 12 NBA games on the schedule this evening. We got a lot going on. We got day baseball happening right now. Mr. Von Tobel, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. I would have been a lot better if I had started Ezekiel Tovar, who just hit a 2-run shot to take a lead for the Colorado Rockies. But other than that, I'm doing fine.
We got plenty to get to. Rob Doster from the Field of 68 live in Phoenix coming up in less than 15 minutes. The latest controversy.
Whoa, what's this one?
UConn's bed's not big enough.
Oh, that wasn't sarcastic? That's like a real thing?
I don't know. I don't know what Danny Hurley will use to get his troops fired up.
I did read that they were upset that there was no everything bagel seasoning available for them. So,
and the avocados for their avocado toast was just there was a tad off. So I don't know how UConn will put up with the shenanigans that is going on down there in Arizona, but somehow, some way, they're still an 11.5 point favorite.
This is real.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I just typed in UConn beds, and the first thing I get is a tweet from somebody that says, the NCAA has a lot of questions to answer after their treatment of UConn ahead of the Final Four. From late travel to awful airlines to small hotel beds compared to other players, this will not go unnoticed. Okay.
Will not go unnoticed. Never forget. Speaking of UConn, they play tonight. The women do against Iowa. We'll get the latest on how much action has been coming into the books with our good friend Chuck Esposito in hour number 2. Your latest look at the spread has Iowa out to, at some spots, as high as a 4-point favorite. So the Caitlin Clark effect is real. Depending on what books you look at, pretty overwhelming reporting out there on Iowa action. I saw BetMGM a couple hours ago, John Ewing tweeting out that over 80% of the bets and handle was on Iowa laying the points against UConn late night. Those games taking place in Cleveland, Ohio. NC State, South Carolina will play the early game, 12, 11.5, depending on where you look, in favor of the unbeaten Gamecocks as they take on the NC State Wolfpack. So should be a fun one tonight. You and I have talked about it. I think the UConn-Iowa game is appointment watching tonight around 6:30 our time, 9:30 Eastern. Caitlin Clark over-under, I believe at DraftKings, sitting at 33.5 for Caitlin Clark tonight after her 41-point performance on Monday night against South Carolina.
Part of me wants to just go UConn. Look,
I would agree with that.
I have not. I've watched how many minutes? Whatever. However many minutes long Iowa and LSU last
40.
week. That's how much I watched of women's college basketball this season. So I come in that fully as somebody who has no knowledge whatsoever of the intricacies of these teams and how they play outside of Caitlin Clark just bombing away. Having said that, just looking at the way that this market just continues to move and where everybody's at, you lick the finger and you test the wind and you're like, wow, everybody just likes UConn, Iowa. It just part of me just wants to go the other way. So I have nothing outside of that. I've got nothing else other than I kind of just want to go the contrarian route here.
I would agree. I took some South Carolina on Monday's show. It did not go well. Maybe if Angel Reese doesn't get hurt, maybe it does. But ultimately, we sit with 3.5 or 4 out there in favor of Iowa against UConn later on this evening. As for the men's Final Four, which will tip off tomorrow in Glendale, Arizona, 6:09 Eastern Time. First up, Purdue taking on NC State, followed by UConn taking on Alabama. Nate Oates and company looking to pull off the stunner. You and I were texting back and forth, and this isn't a knock on people here at the network. We've got some really smart minds, but man, it feels like everybody's got Wolfpack fever on this network, doesn't it?
VSiN PrimeTime is on an island, it would seem, in our love for the Boilermakers and Zach
Boiler
Edey.
up!
By the way, and some of the analysis, too, you can go on VSiN.com. You can read Matt Euban's write-up, which is up on the website, and that's what I read. I also read Mike Somich's piece, which is up on the website of VSiN.com. That was after I was checking the betting splits, which are free for the next 2 weeks, so check it out. It does seem that there is a lot of support for the NC State Wolfpack, so we like a Wolfpack, we'll ride on our own and support the Purdue Boilermakers here. I did end up laying it with Purdue here. I don't think we're going to get cheaper than 8.5, so let's roll. Come on.
Yeah, 8.5. That 8.5 still out there at Caesars William Hill here in Las Vegas, and Caesars Sportsbook, of course, available across the country as well. So make sure you get the 8.5 if you want to join this Wolfpack going against that Wolfpack in NC State. I did play another. I did play a prop play, which we'll get to at the bottom of the hour with our best bets. But look, this is a Purdue team that I think poses a lot of issues for NC State from a matchup standpoint. And the one thing that I'm really fascinated by, JVT, when it comes to Purdue going up against NC State is what we've talked about the past couple of days, where this NC State team, whether it be quality defense on the perimeter or just fortune from their opponents missing three-pointers, opponents combined 28 for 117 from three in the NCAA tournament against them. You know, this is a team that needed overtime to beat Oakland, beat Marquette, a shot quality score that had them losing by 16 points in that Sweet 16 against Marquette, and then beating Duke in the fashion that they did. I thought it was poor coaching from John Shire. That said, DJ Burns was able to go for 29 points. But when I look at the perimeter options for this Purdue team, a Purdue squad with Fletcher Lawyer, Lance Jones, and Braden Smith, all guys who can shoot in that 40% range from three. Remember, this is a Purdue team that entered last week, or the Elite Eight game against Tennessee when they went 3 of 15 from three, as the best three-point shooting team in the country. Now, they're not like Alabama. They're not going to fire it from long range every single possession because they do have the nation's top player for a second consecutive year in Zach Edey. But I anticipate a lot of open looks for this Purdue team because NC State's going to have to focus on Zach Edey and trying to avoid getting into foul trouble with a DJ Burns, with a Mo Dara. So I think the guards could have big games. I think their three-point props are certainly live. And I think Purdue, whether it be first half, full game, however you want to attack it, I just think Purdue takes care of business here. And it does feel like, as it has been floated out there, seeds from 9 to higher. And now every circumstance is different, but I'm just pointing it out. Seeds 9 or worse, 9, 10, 11, that have reached the Final Four. There's been 9 of them. They're all 0-9. They've never won a Final Four game, and they're 3-6. Against the spread. I think the run hints for NC State, it's been improbable. It's been phenomenal. That said, Purdue, boiler up. Give me that big-ass drum that they bring out there so I can beat it because Purdue's going to win this game.
Wow, cut that. I would say this. What I'm interested in, and I can't really find it, so maybe it'll be out there by the time we get to game time. I'd be interested to see if anybody would hang up like a Zach Edey assist prop. Right, because if we're right in that Zach Edey's going to be Zach Edey, and if he draws a couple of doubles, as we have seen at times, triples, will he be able to kick it out to these shooters? Will you be able to get some opportunities where he'll be able to be on the right end of some assists, and these guys will knock these down? So I'd be pretty fascinated to see if Edey can actually come in here, take advantage of that, and I do believe that that's going to happen. So that's one of the interesting angles, too, is not only Zach Edey as a defender, which we've talked about a little bit here. I think that's the most underrated aspect of what this game is, if he can hold up on his own. But Zach Edey, the passer, and if you're going to be able to draw double teams, well, then that means somebody is going to be open. And if somebody's open, you would assume that the luck when it comes to three-point shooting from opponents is going to whittle away or, float away when it comes to, that's a terrible thing, but you know what I'm saying, disappear for NC State because they've been getting freaking lucky.
Then on the other side, the nightcap will be UConn, the unstoppable force unless you're air traffic control, and Alabama. So UConn out to a 12-point favorite. It's kind of hovered around 11, 12, 11 and a half, 12 the majority of the week. If you do like the dog, go ahead and grab the 12 because the rest of the market is sitting at 11 and a half. You know what we haven't talked about is the total, JVT, for Alabama and UConn. Is UConn going to want to control this pace? Because you've got a Alabama team that plays at a remarkably high rate, 9th in the country in adjusted tempo. And you look at what their games have been in the NCAA tournament. Round 1 against College of Charleston. Charleston tried to run with them, did not work out well. They played to 83 possessions, 109-96. The other 3 games have all been 70-plus possessions. And then on the flip side, you've got a Connecticut team who wants to play it slow, 65 possessions per game, very efficient offense, the best efficiency when it comes to an offense. So is UConn going to be able to control the pace? And if so, as scary as it is when you have an Alabama team who's 46% of their possessions, easy for me to say, end in a three-pointer, is the under a look here in this particular game for UConn to slow it down, to kind of just flex their muscles and do what they do best?
It could be. For me, it's not so much about pace. It's more about defensive efficiency here for UConn, whether or not, obviously, the team goes under. You look at what they've done so far in the NCAA tournament. Their 4 games all have gone under the total, Tim. But it's because their defense has been incredible. They don't have an individual game defense rating worse than 89.8, according to KenPom. So they're destroying teams on that end. So I think they're going to be able to dictate their pace. But on the other end, their offensive rating in the tournament's around like 120. So they have been very, very efficient. So if you can get a semblance of a somewhat efficient offense from Alabama, and we're talking like over a point per possession, tempo be damned, you could get this thing to go over the total just because you have the efficiency from both sides. So for me, it's not so much about that. It's whether or not you're going to be able to contain Alabama's offense.
UConn has held all 4 of their opponents so far in the NCAA tournament under 60 points. UConn, 11.5, 12-point favorite. Purdue, 8.5 or 9-point favorite. Much more on the Final Four. On the other side, Rob Doster from the field of 68, live from the site of the Final Four, as it is VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Right now, up on the website of VSiN.com, current betting splits data would tell us that 64% of the handle, 68% of the bets on NC State +9. You can put your eyes on that thing by yourself. Want to know why? Because the next 2 weeks, they're free. Check it out now. VSiN.com/splits. You can see the splits for the next game, Alabama-UConn, and all of the matchups both today and in the future. VSiN.com/splits. It's open to everybody. 2 weeks for free.
Also for free, us on YouTube. YouTube.com/VSiN Live. Each and every first hour of VSiN Primetime, you can stream for free there on YouTube. You can always listen to us for free, whether it be on the VSiN app, on our terrestrial affiliates across the country, or on VSiN.com. That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Let's head down to the site of the Final Four and bring in Rob Doster, who is from the field of 68. They've been doing some great work live from a handful of bars down there, and their live content will start at the top of the next hour. Rob, appreciate you jumping on. Let's jump into the Alabama side. You are someone who knows this UConn program very well. You followed them very closely. You came on this program last year in the midst of their struggles and said, this team could win it all. They did. So give us a pitch and how Nate Oates and this Alabama team can cover the point spread. I don't know about winning, but how do they cover the point spread of 11.5, 12 tomorrow night?
Well, here's the thing about Alabama is that they take and make as many threes as anybody in college basketball, right? And what have we said forever and ever and ever when it comes to college basketball? The three-point line is a great equalizer, right? So the record for threes in an NCAA tournament game is 21. So if Alabama can hit like 25 threes, maybe they got a chance to beat UConn. No, in seriousness, what they're going to have to shoot the lights out, and they're going to have to space the floor. And what they probably need to do is play either Jaron Stevenson or Grant Nelson at the 5, force Donovan Clingan to come out of the paint, space him out, maybe try to get him in foul trouble there, make UConn uncomfortable defensively, and then just put Mark Sears in ball screens, try to get him into the lane and get those kick-out threes. And if they can get hot and have one of those nights where they go like 18 for 37 from beyond the arc, then they got a shot in this thing because they can light it up and they can put up 100 points against anyone. Now, the problem is if you're playing Grant Nelson at the 5 against Donovan Clingan, then you are going to be giving up layups and dunks and layups and dunks and layups and dunks. And I got a feeling that the line that I like the most, the play that I like the most in this game is the over, because I do expect there to be a ton of possessions and a ton of points and a ton of opportunities for for Alabama to get on the run. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they're going to have to do, right? They have to get out there to beat that set defense, and they have to find ways to space UConn out and create open threes. And if they're hitting them, they got a shot. I don't know if it's going to happen, though.
So, Rob, the thing that sticks out to me when you look at this matchup statistically is all the red when it comes to Alabama defensively, when it comes to lack of forcing turnovers, the defensive rebounding rate, the foul rate. Is that as bad as these numbers would look? Is that what we're expecting here for UConn? Destroy them on the glass, get to the free throw line? Or is there something in these numbers that's maybe a little bit, a little too much, like maybe we're reading too much into it, or are they just that bad defensively?
You're not reading too much into it. Yeah. They are that bad defensively. They don't have very good individual defenders. They don't really have that rim protector. When you play the style that Alabama wants to play, right? If you're gonna get out and pressure like that, then you want to be able to have a rim protector at the rim, and not having Charles Bediaku, who ended up going pro and taking a G League contract back in May and June. Not having him kind of changes what they can be on the defensive end of the floor. Now, the thing is, if you're going to beat UConn, there's basically three things that you want to do. Like over what we've seen so far this season is, one, you got to blow up what they do offensively, right? You can't let them run their stuff. They're going to get out there and they're going to run those the set after set after set and screen after screen after screen. You just got no chance, especially if you're a team that defends the way Alabama does. So I don't see them doing that. You got to find a way to get Donovan Clingan in foul trouble. It has not worked. It worked for a while in January. It has not worked in the last 6 weeks. I don't think he's had more than 3 fouls in the game, and I think his last 12 games. So he's figured out how to stay on the floor. So I don't know if Alabama is going to be able to do that. And the third thing you have to do, Creighton beat them going 15 for 29 from three, right? Kansas beat them going 9 for 14 from three. You got to have an outlier shooting performance from beyond the arc, which is why I said maybe if Alabama can get to those 25 threes, they got a chance to win. So.
Rob Doster joining us here on a Progressive guest line. He's down in Phoenix with the Field of 68 crew. By the way, they're going to have a live show coming up top of the hour. A couple special guests going to be stopping by. Hunter Dickinson of Kansas, Armando Bacot of North Carolina, among others. So make sure you check them out. They'll be streaming on YouTube, on their Twitter page as well, at the Field of 68. All right, let's flip it over to the other side. The early game as Purdue and NC State, depending on where you look, either 9, 8.5 point spread. We'll start with the big boys down low. Zach Edey versus DJ Burns. DJ Burns had his day against Kyle Filipowski, 29 points in that Elite Eight victory. What type of success or lack thereof do you anticipate from the man of the moment, right? He's the talk of the town, DJ Burns, when he has to go up against Zach Edey tomorrow night.
I don't like this matchup for NC State. I don't like this matchup for DJ Burns. I think Purdue ends up winning this thing pretty comfortably. I like them laying the points. I think it's like a 15 or 20 point game. Basically, what NC State wants to do on the offensive end of the floor is make you make a decision with DJ Burns, right? They're going to put him in the post, and you're either going to have him go one-on-one, where he is one of the best post scorers that you'll find in college basketball, or you got to send help, you got to send double, and he's just so good at picking out who's going to be open, finding where the help comes from, and creating a closeout or an open shot that way. And I don't think that Purdue is going to need to send help when you have Zach Edey down there. And I don't think that DJ Burns is going to be able to win that matchup the way that he won a matchup against Kyle Filipowski and also Iguodala and some of these other big guys. So I don't think that this is a good matchup for NC State. And I think that Purdue is going to win this thing pretty comfortably. Honestly, guys, I think we're going to have a pretty boring Saturday night here. I think we're looking at 2 15 or 20 point wins with the big dogs, which will set up a great game on Monday night. But in terms of what we're getting on Saturday, I don't think it's going to be the best basketball.
Oh, good. I can even go out early on Saturday night. I'm looking forward to it. So let me ask you this. One of the things that Tim and I have hit on a lot with NC State is obviously opponent three-point shooting. How much of that is their defense? How much of that is variance? And what do you expect from beyond the arc for Purdue in this matchup?
You guys have been hanging out with the three-man weave boys too much, talking about the shooting variance, defensive luck. No, look,
it's our favorite word.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like I think a lot of it is when you're playing one of these underdogs or a game that you're supposed to win, and you miss a couple shots early, and then you find yourself getting down a little bit, and then you have to try to make a comeback. It's a tendency to feel like you have to make up make up an 8-point deficit on one possession, right? And you start rushing, and then every time you miss, you get a little bit more pressure on those shots, and you get a little bit more nervous, and it gets in your head. And I think that we saw that with Duke in the second half, and I think we definitely saw that in the Marquette game against NC State. And I don't think Purdue is going to deal with that, right? Like they know what it's like. They've been through it. They lost to a 16 seed last year for a lot of those very same reasons. And I think that the fact that they have a guy where they can just throw the ball into Zach Edey and they know that most likely he's either going to get fouled or he's going to score, I think that takes away a little bit of the pressure on their three-point shooting. Because at the end of the day, with Purdue, it's not about the threes that they make. It's about the threat that those open threes carry, forcing you to actually have to guard those guys. So I'm not that concerned about it, but it is something where that team does rely a lot on the three ball. So if that's going to be how NC State wins, I guess I can tell myself that story. I don't see it happening.
Rob Doster joining us here on our progressive guest line, getting us ready for the Final Four. He's down at the site of the Final Four. He'll be doing a live broadcast, the Field of 68. Make sure you check him out on all the social media platforms. A couple special guests going to stop by as their show starts top of the hour. Twitter's a lovely place, and I say that very tongue placed inside cheek because, look, Zach Edey's 7'4", 300 pounds, and he's very hard to guard. But when he gets fouled, people get mad for some reason. So I'm curious your thoughts on how Kevin Keatts and company are going to go about guarding Zach Edey. Are they going to be throwing different bodies at him? I mean, it can't just be simple enough of throwing DJ Burns because he's going to get in foul trouble in probably 4 minutes. So what's your expectation in the final minute of how NC State will try to guard Zach Edey?
I think the way that you guard Zach Edey is by cutting off the ball that gets thrown into him, right? I think you have to get out and pressure. And the place where I do see an advantage for NC State to take advantage of in this matchup is they're like Casey Morsell, Jaden Taylor, DJ Horn. Like, those guys can guard, and they're big, and they're physical, and they're strong. And I fully expect them to get out and try to pressure Purdue's guards, pressure Braden Smith, pressure Fletcher Lawyer, make Purdue run their offense from 35 feet, 40 feet away from the basket, as opposed to allowing them to get right up to the three-point line. So if you can keep him from getting those post touches, you can make those entry passes hard. You force him to catch the ball in the post 12 feet away from the rim instead of 4 feet away from the rim. I think that's the best way to kind of handle it. Make him have to back you down a little bit, and then you got a chance.
Rob, always appreciate it, man. Have a great show tonight and enjoy the Final Four.
Oh, I will, man. I will. We need two covers here. We need a UConn cover, we need a Purdue cover, and we need that Purdue-UConn national championship game. Speak it into existence, Tim.
Let's make it happen. There he is, Rob Doster, on our progressive guest line. Make sure you check him out, the Field of 68. We got 12 NBA games tonight. We got some women's college hoops tonight, and, of course, the Final Four tomorrow. Best bets from the two of us coming up on the other side right here on VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Check out the website of VSiN.com. It is new, so it runs a lot smoother. Looks good, too. And we got a lot of great content up there. Adam Burke's got his best bets for the day in Major League Baseball. Matt Humans submits his picks for the Final Four. And we've got write-ups in the NBA. And how about this? This is one of my favorite reads today. Matt Brown with a stock update on Masters golfers. Check it out now at VSiN.com.
Yeah, looking forward to that. The tradition unlike any other next week down there in Augusta, Georgia. We will have plenty of preview action for you when it comes to the Masters starting next week. That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Always check us out first hour on YouTube, youtube.com/VSiN Live. We're live here in Las Vegas, Nevada. As coming up top of the hour, we will have a very busy slate of the NBA, 12 games in total. Will the Milwaukee Bucks lose their third straight game as a double-digit favorite, as they are right now laying 14.5 against the Toronto Raptors? On the women's side of things, we'll talk to Chuck Esposito from Stations Casino in hour 2. What has the action been like? We heard from Johnny Avello from DraftKings Sportsbook earlier this week. Record-setting handle for women's basketball earlier this week. The number 1 and number 3 most bet games in DraftKings Sportsbook history happened on Monday night. Iowa versus South Carolina, and then the nightcap, UConn versus USC. Coming up top of the hour, South Carolina right now, a 11.5-point favorite at DraftKings, 12-point favorite here at Circa against NC State. And then the intriguing one, Iowa right now, a 3.5 or 4 point favorite against UConn. Let's get to, though, our best bets. Here we go.
I see you using an old style.
I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom.
Putting our money where our mouth is.
I like to live dangerously.
It's time for Best Bets.
Come on, Jerry, it's a lock.
I love this music.
All right. 2-1 day yesterday.
I'm back in.
This guy went 2-0. My play, Indiana State on the money line, led 77-70. With 2 minutes to go, the Sycamores did, and they lost 79-77. All right, that was fun. Good play call from Coach Schertz out of the breakdown. 79-77.
It was more fun going in game on the Cardinals and watching them immediately take the lead against.
That was also 3-1 day if you include that one. A little plus money winner there from Jonathan Von Tobel. All right, I will start it off. For me, we talked about it yesterday. Hasn't changed. Laying it with Purdue. 8.5 still available, so get that 8.5. 9 is market wide, but make sure you grab that 8.5. I still would lay 9. I might lay some alt lines in this game. I just think, as you heard from Rob Doster, he kind of echoed what we've talked about a lot this week. I think the matchup is poor for NC State. I think a little bit of regression hits them when it comes to the 3-point fortune for NC State. Purdue coming off a poor shooting game, 3 of 15 from 3. Oh, by the way, they have a guy named Zach Edey who had 40 points and 16 rebounds, and they still were able to cover despite going 3 of 15 from long range against Tennessee. So I do not expect DJ Burns to have a big game, which we'll get to here momentarily on another best bet, but we're going to lay it. 8.5 is out there. We're going to lay that 8.5 with boiler up here in game number 1 of the Final Four. We've talked about it. The public's been rolling through and having themselves a pretty good run here as of late. Could it continue? Certainly is possible. 68% of the bets right now at DraftKings on the NC State Wolfpack, and I don't know how much of that is Will Brinson related, but I imagine he is riding with it as well. But I will lay it with Purdue. Next best bet in this game. You might be surprised to hear this. DJ Burns, under 14.5 points. We've had some interesting thoughts. Braden Smith assist prop was discussed earlier this week when Jim Root joined the program. But for me, I'm curious about DJ Burns. Does he get into foul trouble? Is he the main guy guarding Zach Edey? And does that lead to him going to the bench a little bit? Is this a situation where you think to what we saw in the Sweet 16, where Marquette didn't allow DJ Burns to really get going, only had 4 points in that particular game? He had a lot of assists. He's a very good passer, but I do not think Matt Painter and company are going to allow DJ Burns to do what he's been doing. And Zach Edey clogs up the lane. He's 7'4". He's 300 pounds. He's a very good defender. We saw that block that he had on Dalton Connect in that Tennessee game. So I expect DJ Burns to struggle a little bit. Look, you're getting him at his all-time peak. Yes, he's averaging 18 points per game in the NCAA tournament, but think about the full season. He's averaging 13 points per game this season. So we're going to go Purdue minus 8.5. We're going to go under DJ Burns 14.5 points. Those are my 2 best bets heading into the Final Four.
All right, let's have some fun. This is the fun one first. I'm going to read you something here. Josh Hart hasn't attempted a shot outside of the paint in the past 2 games. Not that he doesn't want to shoot from the perimeter. He can't. Spraying in Hart's right wrist won't allow it. Quote, right now, got to just attack the rim. Shooting the ball, can't really get the ball to the basket from 3 now. Hart said after his latest inspiring performance in a Knick uniform. Josh Hart has attempted 1 3-point attempt in his last 3 games. As we mentioned there, hasn't attempted anything in the last 2. Under a half-made 3. Let's do it. That'll be a lot of fun to track when that game gets started. I think DraftKings got it minus 120. I got it about even money earlier today, so look around and see if that better price is out there. But still, I think minus 120 is playable if that information is correct. So Josh Hart under a half-made 3 in their matchup today. Also, we'll go with the 2 NBA plays as well. First of which is laying 9 with the Boston Celtics. Look, the Sacramento Kings are in a negative situation here, Tim. They played yesterday, had a really good first half, then fell off. They hit like 7 of their first 8 threes in the first half. So understandable that they kind of shriveled up in the second half. But 5th game in 9 days, taking on the Boston Celtics team that is, 1, have a rest advantage, they have a day off, and 2, very good from beyond the perimeter. They shoot a lot of threes. And you know who gives up a lot of threes? The Sacramento Kings. So we'll just play this, not only scheduling angle, but the matchup. Yes, Jaylen Brown and Derek White are both questioned, but we discussed this before. They are deep enough that missing one or two pieces, not going to affect the number too much, not going to affect the performance too much. I still have Drew Holiday for De'Aaron Fox in other matchups, so laid it with the Boston Celtics in that matchup against the Sacramento Kings. And then we have, what we need to get?
What we need?
We need like a sounder, because I do this all the time. The play of principle, boom, the play of principle. I took 4.5 with the Minnesota Timberwolves. This thing opened 2.5 in favor of Phoenix, got up to as high as 5 momentarily about like an hour or two ago. We're right back down. I don't think the Suns are a better team on a neutral than the current version of the Minnesota Timberwolves without Karl Anthony Towns. And yes, the Suns are playing well. They've won and covered 6 out of their last 8 games. They are at home. But I think when you have an equal rest advantage here for both of these teams, you still have multiple matchups you can throw at the Phoenix Suns defensively if you're Minnesota. Good and elite perimeter defenders to throw at their elite offensive playmakers. To me, it's just a number grab here. I don't think this number should be it. And I think, too, you could actually make the argument, Tim, that if you look at what home court has meant post-All-Star break, average home court net rating in non-garbage time is actually under 2 points. Make the argument home court's not even worth that much, so you could also say that this is even saying that they're a much better team than a normal 2.5 home court advantage. So fair enough. I've taken my shot against Phoenix. If you remember, I had the New Orleans Pelicans the other day. They got boat raced, but I'm going to do it one more time here. I don't agree with the number, so Timberwolves plus 4.5. So
all right.
Hard under the half-made three-pointer. Celtics and Timberwolves. Let's go.
All right, Celtics -9, T-Wolves plus 4.5. 2 plays tomorrow for me. DJ Burns under 14.5 points, and Purdue -8.5.
I should mention too. I'm gonna bet those two. So
there we go.
Well.
Friendship plays.
That's right.
We ride together. Prime time together. We haven't had many.
Ride or die. Bad boys for life.
We haven't had many. There's a new one coming out.
Yeah, I don't know. That one looks a little more serious. The last one wasn't great. This one, I'm always going to be in.
It's number 4?
Yes. I mean, look, I'm always going to be in on a Bad Boys. Bad Boys 2 is one of the better action comedy, right? Is that it? Sure. Bad Boys 2 is awesome. So I'll be in. Shake your tail feathers. Let's do it.
No plays tonight. I will say, as JVT kind of opened the show, I am not a women's college basketball handicapper. I have been a casual fan. I'm very much looking forward to the evening affair. I would look a little bit towards UConn, plus the 3.5. But we'll see if the market can get us a 4. There is a 4 out there at Caesars William Hill. So, maybe a look there. But the game coming up top of the hour, South Carolina and NC State. Depending on where you look, you can get as low as 11 if you like the favorite and as high as 12 if you do like the dog. We're going to run through the NBA slate here on the other side of the break with a little primetime primer. But I mentioned this, and I want to give shouts to Evan Abrams, who pointed this out, where the Milwaukee Bucks are in some rarefied air. And I say that because Michael Jordan was on the 1996 Bulls team that was a double-digit favorite, lost 2 straight games as a double-digit favorite, and then was still a double-digit favorite the next game. And that's what we have with the Milwaukee Bucks, who in back-to-back games have lost to the Washington Lizards and then the Memphis Grizzlies at home. And now tonight they play the Toronto Raptors. But on the injury front, good news, Damian Lillard is going to play for the Bucks. This number down as low as 14.
Yep.
So some money coming in. Not that surprising on the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, but I believe I'm going to double check here. Giannis has been downgraded to out, or to doubtful. Excuse me. I don't want to speak to that. So I think that's probably what's going on here with this number, despite the fact that you're getting Damian Lillard back. Actually, no, he has been downgraded to out. So you get one guy back, one goes out. But again, still, this team has nothing. You should be able to win this game.
Yeah,
yes, you just should be able to win, Milwaukee. Come on.
All right, a primetime primer. A busy night in the association. We'll do that on the other side. Join us on YouTube, youtube.com/VSiN Live.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, is giving new customers a shot to turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any college basketball bet. Download the app, use promo code VSiN, VSIN, when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. We had a snow game earlier today. And the Pittsburgh Pirates Orioles. Did you see that?
I did.
A little snow action?
I did.
Yeah. Orioles took care of business, won that game.
Grayson Rodriguez.
5-2. He's pretty good.
He
is pretty good. My Padres, not going to get annoying at all. Tied 2-2 in the top of the ninth inning. Come on, Padres.
What's going to be more annoying? You constantly updating your Padres win total or me constantly referencing my fantasy baseball team?
Ooh, that's a good question. If you're on YouTube, I want you to chime in. Which is going to be more annoying? I don't know.
I mean, my comments are just in passing. Just
I think mine are kind of in passing.
Yours bring the show to a complete screeching halt.
That's true. That's a good point. All right, best bets. Just to recap. Mine both tomorrow. Purdue -8.5. Gave that out yesterday. Number still stands out there at Caesars Sportsbook, which is readily available. Still would lay 9, but if you got a chance, go get the 8.5. And then DJ Burns. Yeah, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to go against DJ Burns, America's sweetheart. I was hoping to get 15. Maybe you get it tomorrow when the public kind of turns its attention to it. But we don't have a show tomorrow. So we're going to go under 14.5 here on DJ Burns. That is readily available at multiple shops. But if you can find a 15, certainly go grab that. Your recap of your best bets for this evening, Mr. Von Tobel.
Should also note, too, be courtesy of producer Britton, I also have a Trey Turner over total bases today, 1.5. So let's go, Trey, who's up at the plate right now. Josh Hart under a half three-pointer made has made it known quite a bit here that his wrist is bothering him. Hasn't taken a 3 in the last 2 games. He's only taken 1 in the last 3. So under a half a three-pointer made. Celtics -9 over the Kings, and Timberwolves +4.5 tonight against the Suns. Sneaky good card late tonight. Timberwolves at Suns, and the Clippers trying to maintain some semblance of positive play after a big win over the Nuggets last night.
All right, you mentioned it. The Clippers, a nice win last night. Let's run through tonight's NBA card. 12 games. We've already got two best bets, out there for the Celtics. Laying the 9. That game coming up at 7:40 against the Kings, and then the Timberwolves taking the 4.5 against the Phoenix Suns. Do we have to talk about every game? Because
I'll say this, because you're referencing Portland and Washington.
Yep.
Washington opened up as a 1.5-point favorite. They did get bet a little bit. They're up to 2.5 here. Total actually really got bet up from 220.5 to 224.5. Some spots 225. The Lizards, I believe, look, they're playing at least hard. I think you can give them some credit here. Now, deal what's rhyme or reason to who's available and who's not. Jeremy Grant's been listed as doubtful for like an eternity and yet has not played, so I don't know why he's even on the injury report. But Washington has at least been playing pretty hard here. And again, going back to what we talked about, I would say, Tim, that Washington is the better of these teams, and yet they are being treated as equals with this point spread. So for me, it would be Washington or pass. Having said that, I don't want to watch the Wizards and or put money on them. So I didn't bet it, but I do believe Washington is the side for what it's worth.
The Wizards, this is the 9th time this year they will be a favorite. They are 2-6 ATS as a favorite. Orlando laying a big old number. Orlando very much fighting for playoff seeding. They're laying 12.5 against the Charlotte Hornets. 206.5 is this game. Also starting at 7:10. Anything of note on this one?
Yeah, so first off, as you mentioned, Orlando trying to maintain pace here when it comes to home court in the Eastern Conference playoffs and what looks to be home court against the New York Knicks. It seems to be a pretty solid matchup, although Orlando's got more upward mobility. They're only a half game behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they need to win. Problem here is I'll take you back to last week, Tim, when I had bet Orlando at home over Portland, right? They were laying about this number at home. The problem with Orlando that I think, and we learned it in that matchup, well, they could play really well defensively. Their offense is still below average. So can you trust them to score with enough efficiency to cover a margin like this? I trust that they're going to win. I mean, obviously, they're massive favorites here, a $7.50 money line price. But I just don't know if they're going to win by margin because their offense at times can be so inconsistent. Charlotte, you're going to have Miles Bridges out on the floor. He is now available. Vasily Micic is going to be available. Brandon Miller is going to be available. And Grant Williams is going to be available. So the guys that are important 4 out of their starting 5 are going to be out there on the floor. So that gives Charlotte a little bit of hope here, especially Brandon Miller, who's having a very quiet and awesome year because he's just buried in Charlotte. But to me, it would be Charlotte or pass, just given the fact that I'm not sure if Orlando wins by such a massive margin on the road. But market is in their favor. Opened 11.5. We're up to 13 in some spots.
It is really, when you look at the standings, and we only have a week and change left in the regular season.
Yeah.
Right now, Cleveland
6 games left, yeah.
owns the 3 spot at 46-31. Orlando and New York currently tied for 4th, with Orlando having the tiebreaker at 45-31. And then you got the Pacers, who are currently holding on to that 6th spot, all important to avoid the play-in tournament. They are only a game clear of the Sixers and a half game clear of the Miami Heat. And Indiana plays Oklahoma City tonight. They are laying 6.5. So how vital is this spot for Indiana? Obviously, Oklahoma City dealing with all sorts of injuries.
Yeah, and Miles Turner's going to play, so that's big. He had been questionable with a back injury, but he's going to be out there. No, it's huge. And I don't want to say Oklahoma City is waving the white flag here, but clearly the importance is getting your best players healthy. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams, as you mentioned, the more important Jalen Williams, nothing against other Jalen Williams, are both out. So this looks, as we talked about, when we saw them against Boston, Oklahoma City's very good when those two are out there, but they just lack real shot creation and I think dynamic play offensively without those two guys. So Indiana is not the best defensive team by any stretch, but given the motivation and lack of offensive creation here, it's no surprise that we saw this open 4.5. We're up to 6.5. Indiana's got everything going in their favor at this point right now. A little bit of an advantage, too, with the Oklahoma City Thunder playing in the midst of this road trip with all these injuries. To me, it would be Indiana or pass, and you're at the top of the market here. So given how fickle Indiana has been defensively, and how high this total is, we're talking like 236, I'm going to be willing to bet you're going to get a better in-game number at some point. I'll remind everybody, remember Oklahoma City took on Houston at one point. Yep. They were without Shai, and they pushed them hard and eventually ended up losing in that game. They closed at 5-point favorites there, but the point is Oklahoma City can't do something without those guys. So I'd wait to get a better in-game number on Indiana.
Well, we had the Philadelphia game, right, with the wackiness of the line.
Yep.
Shai gets ruled out. Joel Embiid gets ruled in. They lose by 1. They did cover the closing number against Philadelphia earlier this week. You talked about it already. Best bet for JVT is laying the 9 with the Boston Celtics to the 8 o'clock Eastern hour. Once again, Toronto and Milwaukee, and the news that just came down a little while ago, Giannis ruled out. Damian Lillard is in for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks playing another terrible team, but they've lost their last 2 games against terrible teams, losing on the road to the Washington Lizards and then losing to the Grizzlies, both without Damian Lillard. Dame in, Giannis out. They're laying 14 or 14.5 here with this game tipping off at 8:10. So nothing really of note here. Would you look to lay it at all?
No, so I'd say this. We'll go back to the Wizards and the Lakers the other night, right? So the Lakers were on the second leg of a back-to-back. They're playing Washington. They're up by about 14 with 90 seconds left. They clear the bench because they're well and good. Bench comes in, blows that really big way, gives it like an 8-0 run in the blink of an eye, and they actually had to put LeBron James and Anthony Davis back on the floor to kill a final possession, which would turned out to be, I think, a 2-point game at one point, ended up winning by 5. I bring this up because Damian Lillard's obviously dealing with this groin issue that caused him to miss some time. If the Bucks are in position and winning by margin in the fourth quarter, Tim, I'm willing to bet Damian Lillard's not seeing the entirety of this game. So you have that risk of laying a big number like this, having the bench close this thing out, and allowing a team like the Toronto Raptors to get back inside of this number. So I would exercise some caution in laying a big one. Again, with these, in-game opportunities are always abound, especially if they continue to do Bucks things, which is just kind of fart around and not really take care of business. And I also want to make sure with the Raptors, Ochai Agbaji, you want to make sure if he's going to be available or not. He had a really painful hip injury. He's questionable to play. Bruce Brown, Gary Trent Jr. also questionable. So if those guys are out there, just makes it a little bit better for a team that it really doesn't have anything else, and you want those guys out there.
All right, I want to jump ahead to a couple really intriguing games. We'll hit on these in the next hour as well. We've got Miami-Houston. Houston catching 3 here. Market has bet up Miami. We've got Chicago and New York. The Knicks, of course, the finality of Julius Randle being out for the year. Chicago been playing better lately, depending on where you look, either -1 in favor of New York pick or +1 in favor of Chicago. Both of those games starting at 8:10 Eastern.
I'd go to the Houston-Miami matchup in this one here. Look, essentially the knife was stuck in the side here last night. Did you see the elite level trolling, by the way, from Steph Curry yesterday?
Yeah,
brilliant. Houston Rockets. I can't remember if it was Tari Eason who was wearing a Warriors come out and play shirt. Curry, of course, ends their lives, basketball lives, and comes out with the 3 bottles on the fingers, just like it. Is it a movie, a show, whatever it is? I've never seen it. Regardless. I think Houston's kind of in that spot now where they call them like the dream crusher, like the old school handicappers, right? Yesterday was the game to stay alive.
Right.
And that essentially, not mathematically, but essentially eliminates you from getting into the play-in. Now what's it like taking
4 games out of the Warriors,
right,
by the way.
6 to play, and without the tiebreaker. Miami should come in here with plenty to play for and kind of stomp on their throat. By the way, have failed to cover their last 4 at the peak of the market. I think it's all done for Houston.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. Top of the hour, we revisit the Final Four and take a look at some look-ahead national championship lines.